We got 7 different stories from 7 different news outlets, guys. It's time for another episode of Regan's Newsround. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Regan Elite here with another episode of Regan's Newsround, and we start with the Guardian with the headline that scrapping short jail terms in England and Wales puts women at risk, said the abusive watchdog. The exclusive reveals that Nicole Jacobs' policy files in the face of ministers claims to take domestic violence seriously. So we've talked in many different videos and about how prisons at the moment are very much overcrowded, and like I say, it all ties in together, guys, because when we don't have enough space in our prison systems, you end up finding that those who are considered a threat to society or have failed to be rehabilitated end up getting released early because in order to try and make space for other criminals. Now, of course, they are trying to build prisons. They are trying to build new prisons. My understanding, this is what the government have been currently trying to do, but they're not really making things easier. And it's not, and the thing that really frustration is the victims in all these cases. And this is another example of it. Is putting women at risk here, scrapping the short jail terms in England and Wales. So let's just read into it, guys. So abusive men in England and Wales will walk free from court under a new sentencing policy that flies in the face of ministers' claims to take domestic violence seriously, independent government watchdog has said. Nicole Jacobs, the domestic abuse commissioner, said ministers had not done enough to protect women from a decision to lift the pressures on overcrowding prisons by scrapping short prison sentences. The government's sentencing bill puts a duty on judges to give suspended sentences where they may otherwise have given jail terms of 12 months or less. After advocacy groups raised concerns, an exemption was added in November in cases where convicted individuals had breached a court order or could be shown to pose a significant risk of causing psychological or physical harm to another person. Speaking to The Guardian, Jacobs said that this was inadequate and that the government's failure to respond to her call for specific exemption from perpetrators of domestic abuse was putting women at risk. She claimed the probation service did not have the capacity to properly advise judges and magistrates on the dangers posed by the perpetrators of domestic violence. A recent recruitment drive for probation officers had increased numbers by 8.2% year on year. However, the service was lacking experience, Jacobs said, and on the rehabilitation on offer to abusive men within the community was operating at full capacity. She said it was unacceptable that the minority of women who felt able to cooperate with the investigation all the way to conviction should be left exposed by the system. Last year, 6.8% of domestic abuse reports resulted in a charge. For sexual offences flagged as domestic abuse, the charge rate was even lower at 3%. Jacob said, I think it's not that I think that person is the best idea for everyone, but it's not the case that someone who's in for that kind of new low sentence is not a very dangerous person to the victim. What it has taken to get the victim to a point where this has actually happened. Most of all time will be relying on a statement from the victim. This is the other thing as well, is that there is so much distrust within police for them to bring justice to their criminals. A lot of victims just these days, they just walk away or don't say anything because they don't trust the police, they don't trust the system in place to ensure that they get the justice that they deserve. And they choose to bottle it up inside, which is really, really bad. 4 out of 5 won't even report domestic abuse to the police. So when you take the 1 out of 5 who report to the police and then you get a fraction of them who actually get to the court, and if at that stage the court says, oh, we'll give you a community sentence, that really just flies in the face of the kind of rhetoric by the government that domestic abuse is serious. That is such as serious as terrorism, organised crime. That is such a mismatch. That's right, an insult when you go out of that way to really try and get the victim to perpetrate and to really try and get them to stand up for themselves, and it's very difficult for the victims to do that, and all they get is community sentence. That's just, as it just says right there, it just spits in the face of the work that's been put in. According to the latest military justice statistics, 11,040 men were jailed for about 12 months or less for harassment, stalking, and revenge porn last year. There are concerns that a proportion of this number would not be imprisoned in the future. Jacobs said that he had met the Justice Secretary Alice Chalk to make the point that a judge who wished to be handed down a prison sentence to such men would be heavily reliant on the probation service to correctly identify the levels of risk of a perpetrator causing psychological or physical harm. A full probation report is what it would take to have any confidence that a judge would be able to do that correctly. He added that those who were given community service sentences, probation, did have some rehabilitation perpetrator programs, but they are very over capacity. If you really want some proper rehabilitation, proper oversight of that community order, proper understanding to put to the judge, that all hinges on fractions within proportion, which is fairly under-resourced. And she said, I've been told by probation themselves that we've got this huge recruitment drive, that they've got this very new proportion of officers. Are we really at a point where we're equipped to do this properly? Because for domestic abuse, that really matters. Jacobs said she was concerned that ministers had cherry-picked from the government's commission review by Claire Ward KC into the culture of misogyny in the criminal justice system. The review was prompted by poor conviction rates in rape cases and soft sentences for domestic homicide. So anything that's good, they'll highlight, and then the things that are bad, they'll try not for people to talk about. Jacobs said that the government had failed to ensure that sexual indefinitely could not be raised as a mitigating factor in domestic homicide, claiming that they were already suffering controls on the judge's approach. Wade also recommended that strangulation as the common means of domestic homicide should be made a statutory aggravating factor in domestic abuse cases, but the government did not agree. Jacobs said what Wade was very clear about was that these recommendations couldn't be cherry-picked. They needed to come as a package, and they have come somewhat cherry-picked. A criminal justice bill going through Parliament had also failed to ensure police forces were properly dealing with cases where an officer had been accused of domestic abuse, Jacob added. The Freedom of Information request made by domestic violence charity Refuge found between May 2020 and May 2023 that there were 1,124 cases of police misconduct or gross misconduct involving violence against girls or women. Jacob said the bill should include a provision requiring the removal of warrant cards from police officers under investigation for crimes relating to women and girls. In 2021, Wayne Cozzers used his police warrant card to lure Sarah Everard off the streets before raping and murdering her. He was later convicted of 3 instances of indecent exposure committed in the run-up to the murder. Jacobs said he had been exposing himself days and weeks earlier. If there's known behaviour or allegations are afoot, I don't believe they should be carrying a warrant card or gives them any kind of tremendous power. I think that's a bit blatant obvious, but it's a failure of our system. It should never have happened what happened to her. A government spokesperson has said, we have been clear our sentencing reform does not apply if an offender poses a serious risk to an individual or is in breach of our court order. Such as a stalking protection order, we engage with our domestic abuse charities to raise awareness of these important safeguards. This government takes unprecedented action to protect women, including landmark legislation in response to Claire Wade's review to ensure domestic killers get sentences they deserve. We have also introduced new laws to crack down on stalking and cohesive controls. Claire's law, which gives women the right to know if their partner has an abusive past. Following the police dismissal review, the government is working at pace to introduce substantial changes to the misconduct vetting and performance system. The vast majority of these reforms are being implemented through changes to existing secondary legislation, not via the criminal justice bill. The government are saying the right things, but again, are not. But there's no substance once again for these things, guys. We've heard it so many times where they say that they're going to try and make a difference. But I just feel like it's hollow words from the government. Not enough is being done. But like I've said, the whole system needs to be looked at, because if you don't even have the capacity to hold these criminals for long term, then this is the cheapskate way of them getting out of this. Once again, the government failing to take its ownership and responsibility for its actions, and this is another case of it. And as always, more than anything, my heart goes out to those victims, because they should not have to live in fear of not being able to get the justice that they deserve. They should not have to. They should be confident to be able to talk to the police. They should be confident to be able to get the support and the help that they need to be able to stand up in that court and give their point of view. But that confidence is not there because we have a broken system. Speaking of broken people, this story here from Sky News, guys. Crap parents are behind struggling children, says Tory MP James Daly has claimed. James Daly, the MP for Bury North, was elected in 2019. He's a new member of the New Conservative caucus in Westminster. This is pretty damning, to make claims about parents are just crap. I think he could not be more insulting. Whatever his background, whether it's a rich, wealthy background or whether he isn't someone who's come up from an ordinary life, it's pretty insulting to say the least. Now, I have said that in the past that obviously that parents, there are all sorts of situations behind parents and the way they raise their kids. But as an MP, to come out and call parents crap behind struggling children, when we rinse and repeat, cost of living crisis, crumbling NHS, crumbling school buildings, lack of funding for these schools as well, expensive places to put your children in nursery, and where is the support from the government? It's very lacking in support for the government. So to blame the parents behind what's been happening over the last 13 years of why their kids have not been successful, the government has to take its part in it. It's always easy to point the finger somewhere else when things are going wrong, and this is just outright blatant insulting, is what this is. So this is the idiot who made the comment. So a Conservative MP has claimed that most children who struggle in his town are the products of crap parents. James Daly, the Tory MP for Bury North, made the claim while speaking to the I newspaper. He was first elected in 2019 as the MP for the area. Bury North has swapped between Labour and the Conservatives since 1999. The tax cuts and the new MP and the Nigel Farage comeback, what 2024 could have in store for UK politics. James Filth, the MP who unsettled, is aiming to win. I was just checking the date. I wasn't mixed up here. James Frey, the Labour MP who Mr Daly unseated, is aiming to win his seat back at the election set to be called next year. The current majority is just 105. Mr Daly is a member of the New Conservative group, which includes the likes of Lee Anderson, Jonathan Gullis, Daniel Kruger and Miriam Cates. He worked as a lawyer before entering Parliament. Speaking to the I, Mr Daly said, "I think the New Conservative represents very much working class conservatism. We're not a strange right-wing sector. We just want people. It's just people who want to give the best chance to succeed and thrive in life." Yeah, by calling people crap and shit and shooting them down, that's the best way to give people the best chance in life, by shooting them down, kicking them down while they're down, isn't it? Yeah. Do you kick homeless people when they're down as well? Yeah. Is that what you do? Yeah, because that's what great way to help people succeed and thrive in life, by kicking them when they're down. When you think about the family, you think about stability. Oh yeah, and by telling parents that they're crap at raising their kids, that's really helpful to them. Most of the kids who struggle in Bury are products of crap parents. So what do we do to try and address that issue? So you're already swiping your own constituencies by making such a claim. On the left, we would just be, well, throw money at this and hope something sticks. Something like this thinks about this more fundamentally. This guy deserves to lose his seat. Mr Farrell said, "It's revealing to see how little James Daly thinks of his own constituencies. Rather than insulting the parenting skills of people in Bury, he should look closer to home. Over the last 13 years, the Conservatives have failed to grow our economy, protect our public service and provide opportunities for young people in Bury across the UK." Exactly. This is exactly it. To insult your own constituencies and their parenting, when every case is different. What right does he have to make such an outrageous claim? Has he been through the struggles? Has he been homeless before? Has he tried? Trying to make? Has he tried take away all his money and all his friends and family? Let's see how long he survives on the streets all by himself. Scraping through the bins, asking people for money, trying to make ends meet. Does he know what it's like to be on the lower end of threshold? Does he even have any inkling of it? Probably not. It's so easy to make such pathetic and disgusting remarks when you're sitting on the high echelons at the top. It really is pathetic, to say the least. A sad little man, and hopefully that sad little man will lose his seat at the next general election, because he rightly does deserve to lose it. So we'll move on from that, guys. So the next one we have is from the BBC. A bit of a more, not so much the biggest of news, but still an interesting one, to say the least, guys. So recycling electrical goods could be done at curbsides and drop-off points in shops, guys. So one of the small council issues that I see a lot of these days is people dumping a lot of electronic goods outside their homes and it's becoming a bit of a problem, because some people, obviously, you can't fit certain electrical because depending on the size of them, you can't fit them in your car or whatever, or you don't have a car. Just take it down to the scrapyard or whatever to get rid of it. So what do? They just dump it on the side. It's difficult sometimes for people to get rid of electronics, so this looks like a way of probably helping people recycle it, because we do need to encourage more electrical goods to get recycled, because too much of it is just getting dumped on the sides in the streets and that. So this is not obviously the biggest of issue, but it is something that can help and make a difference. Especially, it's a small tiny thing when it comes to recycling and green stuff, but these tiny little things add up, don't they? So curbside collections for small electrical goods such as toasters and hairdryers could be rolled out across the UK from 2026 under government's proposals to boost recycling. Ministers are considering drop-off points in shops where households can recycle unwanted items for free. Retailers will also be made to collect unwanted larger electrical items when delivering replacements. Customers will no longer be charged for collecting on delivery service. So there's still not people. This isn't going to make a difference. People, like, the thing is, if they did like once a month, going around collecting all the electrical goods, that could be a much better thing. But instead, they're telling people to just tell them where to take it to. Well, some people can't do that. Customers will no longer be charged for collection on delivery services. Many retailers such as B&Q, John Lewis and Currys currently offer a pay-for-collection service for large electrical appliances where customers buy a similar item. Yeah, they should not have to pay for that. The reforms are part of the government's plans to boost recycling, as it found that 155,000 tonnes of smaller household electrical items such as cables, toasters, kettles and pawns are wrongly thrown out each year. About 500 tonnes of fairy lights are discarded at Christmas in the UK, the government estimates. Ministers will engage with manufacturers, retailers and small businesses throughout the 10-week consultation, which opens on Thursday. Recycling Minister Robert Moore said the plans would ensure goods avoid being needlessly thrown away. Well, I like that they're going to have consultations on this. Whether they will actually have some good ones, I don't know. Every year, millions of household electricals across the UK end up in the bins rather than being correctly recycled or reused, he said. Well, the thing is, if you created a bin or something where electricals could get put in, then you avoid this problem. Because even in London where I live, like unless I take my electrical item and literally have to take it somewhere, people are lazy. People are lazy. We need to understand this. People are lazy. Taking stuff down to the skips or scrapyards and whatever. People are lazy. Make another bin. Pay the councils to have another bin for something for electricals, for small and medium with electricals. Oh, just knocked my water over. Just make something of that sort there. And that would be a much easier option, rather than making people go out of their way. Obviously, larger electrical goods, obviously that's a different challenge, of course. But why can't we do something with the electricals like we do with the greens, with green recycling, when we're not wasting so much general waste? Why can't we do that? Um, I don't understand why this is something that is not being talked about. It can be collected just like collecting our waste in green. This should be a really serious discussion that should be done in people's homes, because people have electrical goods that they want to get rid of. And they end up just dumping them outside, and then the scrap heaps come and take them away. Now, you might not be bothered by the scavengers coming and scrapping heap and taking them away, but this is a sheer waste of natural resources, and it has to stop. He added that the level of household waste produced over the Christmas period highlighted the need for change. The government will also consult on ensuring vape suppliers fund collectors of single-use products to avoid them ending up in landfills, although this is not necessary to see them entirely recycled. Nearly 5 million vapes are now thrown away every week, almost 4 times higher than last year, it says. A recent study on public attitudes found more than 70% of households would view a retailer as more environmentally responsible if they knew they were offering electrical recycling services. So I do see that a lot of really retailers. I think there's one or two toy shops as well where they have like a battery place where you can put your recycled batteries in there as well, and they can take them away rather than you obviously chucking them in the bin. But my premise is that if you have something like this at home, rather than because people are lazy. Like I said, people are lazy. They're not going to. Some people just aren't going to go out their way to get rid of items. Some people. The Environment Surgery Association Executive Director welcomed the plan, saying it could make it simpler and more convenient for households to recycle electrical items at home. Well, it's not making it at home if you're not going to provide something for them to pick it up for them for free. On behalf of those operating recycling sectors and curbside collection services, we welcome the opportunity to contribute through consultation to help create an effective system that delivers on its intended outcomes and works, not just for households but for obliged product producers and retailers too. The range of measures are proposed within the joint UK government, Scottish government, Welsh government and Northern Ireland executive consultation. I like that it's with all the devolved nations as well. But like I say, I'm looking at this and I'm just thinking, it should not have to be that they have to go out their ways to get rid of certain electricals. Obviously, larger ones are a different kettle of fish, and that's understandable. But we need to stop this, stop people dumping stuff. We need to make it incentivize people to recycle electrical goods. If you incentivize people, like if they offer like a coupon or something, if you incentivize people to do something to recycle, people are more likely to do it. That's the way you get people to do it. You incentivize people into doing it. That's how you get them on board with things. That's the key for me. If you want people to do something, you've got to give them something in return. Sometimes just telling people, "Oh, you have to do this," doesn't always necessarily mean that people will do it. People are still not always separating their general waste with their greens. Just because the bins are there doesn't necessarily mean everybody always still does that. Now, in every council, every county, it's different for every place, and I think they should all be the same across the entire country here in England. Obviously, I think it's more than fine. I think it's okay for it to be different in other nations such as Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. But the recycling system should be completely the same across the whole country. It should not be different. Like, because I know in where I live, we have a green bin, we have a black bin, and then we have a caddy for food waste. Yeah, I know where my parents live, they have a brown bin, that they have a purple bin, and I don't even know what their purple bin is. But to me, it's like, what? Unless I move up there, I don't get it around my head. Now, in another place, it's probably a little bit different, where they have different bins or whatever. It needs to be all the same, and it needs to be the same across the whole country of England. The whole. It needs to be the same across the whole way to make it easier and simpler. Okay, this is what we have to do. This is how you do it. And this is where they need to make it, simplify it as much as possible, so you don't have this changing confusion for people. And then you need to incentivize people to a way of getting rid of their electrical goods in a much easier fashion. I don't see a problem with it being picked up from homes. but I would say try to incentivise people to do it rather than just dumping it outside for scavengers to pick up. Rant over. Anyway, guys, while you're here, share your thoughts as always in the comments below or in the Premiere chat if you happen to be watching this while you're Premiere. While you're also here, hit the like button, be greatly appreciated. Share this across social media and hit that bell notification icon so you'll be notified when I upload another video. And also, if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. It really does help support the channel. Right, so the next one we got, guys, is for an exclusive from iNews. Whether this will happen or not is another thing, but I'd like to hope so anyway. So the headline is, "We will pressure Starmer for wealth tax over the debt time bomb," the TUC chief Paul Nowak has said. Excuse me. In an interview with the Eye, Paul Nowak says the need for a national conversation on tax is urgent. Tax the rich. Tax the rich. How many times have we wanted to tax the effing rich, guys? They need to be taxed so much. And I don't care what the premise of people are saying is that if we tax the rich, they will go. Let them go. If they go, they go. But we need the money. And they don't need the money. They have more than enough money. Tax the frickin' rich. Couldn't agree more with this headline. Let's read what he has to say, guys. Employers are already trying to improve their relations with unions in anticipation of an incoming Labour government, according to the General Secretary of the TUC. I detect a change in mood. I talk to a lot of employers, and the mood is that there is a political change coming, and that is going to involve a stronger union voice, Paul Nowak said in an interview with the Eye. He said employers were absolutely changing their stance on issues like new anti-strike legislation that Sir Keir has promised to repeal within the first 100 days in number 10. Yes, that anti-strike legislation is abominable and it's abhorrent and it needs to go. We've had the rail employers and NHS employers both say the legislation, which allows employers to issue work notices forcing striking employees to return to work or be sacked, could prolong and worsen disputes. And it will do that. He added, I think it will be a very brave employer to issue a work notice knowing that a Labour government is coming in and saying it will repeal the legislation. Sir Keir's promise to introduce a so-called New Deal for workers immediately after election victory is a major win for the unions. The Labour leader has rebuffed their demands to shift the tax burden from workers to assets, however ruling out a new wealth tax. But in the taste of the battles to come, if Sir Keir does reach number 10, the TUC General Secretary said he wouldn't take no for an answer as the unions press for major changes to tax to fund public services. Yeah, we need public services, need money. They need money. You know, Rachel Reeves keeps talking about balancing the books. Okay, let's tax the rich so we can fund our public services. There you go, Bob's your uncle. I don't see why that's a big deal. We've committed to thinking of ways to shift the tax burden from workers onto wealth. We've got a tax system that hasn't kept pace with the change in income inequalities in this country, Mr. Nowak has said. According to the research by the University of Greenwich, cited by Labour MP Rachel Maskell in the Commons debate in November, a wealth tax could raise £70 billion. One option of a wealth tax could be a one-off tax based on an individual asset valued at a specific time. A report by the London School of Economics commissioned by the Wealth Tax Commission in 2020 suggested a one-off wealth tax payable on all individual wealths above £500,000 charged at 1% a year for 5 years could raise £260 billion at a threshold of £2 million, and it would raise £80 billion. Ooh, think of what we could do with that money, people. Think. I like that. While the TUC, which brings together 48 unions with a total membership of 5.5 million, didn't plan to campaign hard on the issue during the election. It wanted a national conversation on tax, and the need for more cash to fund investment in public services was urgent. Mr. Nowak said he had agreed to speak to Sir Keir and Rachel Reeves, the Shadow Chancellor, every 6 to 8 weeks as they sought the right relationship. Although Reeves has ruled out a new wealth tax, Mr. Nowak made it clear it wasn't a subject he regarded as closed. I'm a trade unionist. If I took the answer for the first time, anyone said no, I wouldn't last long on the job. Of course, it's going to be part of the debate and the conversation if Labour wins the next election. And TUC bosses also wants an incoming Labour government to overhaul the way public sector pay is set by ensuring that pay review bodies are properly independent and that can take into account the recruitment needs for the recommended pay levels. Mr Nowak, who took over the top job last year, admits he's a little disappointed that the recent trends of increasing union membership stalled, with the number actually dipping despite some high-profile victories. It's a mixed picture. I think people will be joining unions as a result of all that increased activity and people taking strike action. And unions have been in the news in a way that has never been before. But on the other side, we've got a real competing cost of living pressures. So far, a lot of our members that £15 or £20 a week is such a big financial commitment. I take heart from what is happening with Amazon, for instance. The campaign from GMB has been waging for union reconciliation, starting with 30 or 40 people in one site. There's now more than 1,000 members. I don't think its campaign is going to win in a few weeks or months, but I guarantee over the next few years the GMB will get reconciliation in Amazon. Unsecured debt will rise to $1,400 per household next year. Unsecured debts such as credit card bills and bank loans will balloon by an average of $1,400 per household in next year as families continue to struggle to make ends meet, the TUC had warned. The forecast, based on the Office of Budget Responsibility, the OBR, projections for unsecured household liabilities. The independent budget watchdog has already said that the period between 2021 and 2024 will see the biggest fall in living standards since record began in 1955. Mr Newak said the TUC's analysis of OBR data reveals families were facing a debt time bomb as credit card bills, loans and hire purchases agreements built up while wages stalled. The TUC claims that over the course of the next Parliament, unsecured debt is set to rocket by £6,000 on average per family. The union body says unsecured debt per UK household is on course to reach a record level of £17,200 by 2026, exceeding the previously high of £16,800 set in 2007 and the top £19,000 by 2028. In the New Year's message, Mr Newak will call for an early general election. Every month the Tories will stay in office, the more families will be pushed into debt, he will say. If something doesn't change, real wages won't recover to their 2008 levels until 2028. These 13 years of economic stagnation have left working people brutally exposed to the cost of living crisis. We cannot afford a Tory government for one day longer. Absolutely. I like a lot of things of what Paul Nowak has said. We absolutely need to tax the rich. We absolutely need to hold Labour to the fire if they come in at the next general election, and we need to protect families up and down. Yeah, with these debts and bills that are rising, that people are finding themselves spiraling themselves into because of basically no help and no support whatsoever from the Conservative government. They need that help. They really, really do, guys. And let's hope the unions continue to keep the pressure on. That is for sure, because people deserve a decent, fair pay rise. Let's tax tax those who have the money that can make a massive difference to public services, because public services need money. Obviously, there's still a long way to go, but I am optimistic about the future, even though things have always been bleak for a long time now, guys. So let's lighten the mood a little bit, guys. I've got some broken news coming in.
Welcome to Broken News. Chefs around the world have been told to stop putting truffle oil on every fucking thing. The call comes from anyone who's ever eaten at a restaurant ever. Our reporter has more.
Truffles have been around and gobbled by humans for thousands of years, and the practice of tossing one in a bottle of olive oil isn't new. But historians have said 2021 was the year when every chef in the world decided to go mental and start putting truffle oil on every single dish on their menu. Around that time, supermarkets started putting it in all their crisps and bread and sauces and packet rice and pesto and mayonnaise and cheese and soup and pasta and pizzas and shampoo. And while some have welcomed the day of the truffards, others say it tastes like a sweaty dog's dick. Chefs have responded by saying it makes us look classy, especially if we put white truffle on the menu, and it's convinced people that it's a luxury product and not basically a terrifying, unkillable mould that digests rotting rodents and is sniffed out by filthy pigs. By the way, you should try our creme brulee with black truffle chunks, topped with truffle oil and truffle parmesan shavings on a bed of truffle toast, served on a roof slate for some bloody reason. Back to you.
Lovely story. Well, that's all from Broken News. You're up to date.
I just realised that my mic is muted while I was saying all that as well. How embarrassing. My apologies, guys. Yeah, I forgot to unmute my mic. Sorry about that. Anyway, let's go straight into the next story, guys, before I waste any more of your time. So the next one is from The Independent, guys. Nigel Farage calls James Cleverly a moron over a small boat's claim. The former Brexit leader said the Home Secretary was a liar and charlatan, adding that the Conservatives all deserve to lose your seats at the next election. It's so funny that Nigel Farage calls them a liar and a charlatan, adding that Conservatives all deserve to lose their seats, when he's a liar and a charlatan himself, with all the remarks that he says about the benefits of Brexit and everything that was going to come with it. Oh dear, excuse me. He is a liar and a charlatan, telling another person that you're a liar and a charlatan, guys. Couldn't make this crap up, guys. Oh dear. So Nigel Farage has branded James Cleverly a moron for celebrating the lack of small boat crossings on Christmas Day. The former Brexit Party leader said the Home Secretary was a liar and a charlatan, adding that Conservatives all deserve to lose your seats at the next election. The no small boat crossings took place on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day and Boxing Day this year, according to the Home Office figures. This is the first time this has happened since 2018. Mr. Cleverly took to X on Wednesday to claim that the work of the UK and French border force officers had contributed to the pause. No, mate, it was because of the weather again. We have to keep pointing this out. There were no small boats arriving over Christmas for the first time since they started in 2018, he said. Huzzah, he says. He didn't really say huzzah, but you get my point. Last night, our border force officers and their French partners worked together to stop the boats launching on the beaches. But Mr. Cleverly was insured by a social media platform which added a note claiming that the Home Secretary's post was misleading. Yes, guys, his tweet was actually under-highlighted. If you see the tweet, it actually states that the tweet that he made is actually misleading. It highlighted the unusual stormy weather this winter, with the Home Office's own website confirming the small boat crossings are affected by adverse weather. So even his own website is what a dummy. Mr. Farage, who is expected to make a political comeback with the Brexit Party, now called Regan, lashed out at Mr. Cleverly. So there it is, guys. So you can see Nigel Farage calling him, you may be Cleverly, but you are clearly a moron. I am so close to Dover now. The wind has been gusting at 50 miles an hour. This is why there are no migrants crossing. You charlatans and liars all deserve to lose your seats at the election. And you can see there him saying that there's no small arriving for the first time because of our border forces. They played a crucial role in cutting crossing by 35%. And you can see there the context there saying that James's post is misleading. Even the government's own website confirms that there are seasonal effectiveness on boat crossings due to adverse weather. This winter is unusually stormy. Yeah, it's in 2019 the then Brexit Party stood hundreds of candidates down to avoid splitting the vote and letting Jeremy Corbyn into number 10. But amid rising anger on the political right and small boat crossings and record net migration, Mr. Tice vowed to fight at every seat next year. Mr. Tice told the Sunday Times in 2024 election that he will be ready whenever spring, summer or autumn we will be standing in seats everywhere in England, Scotland and Wales. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. Many, including Tory MPs and commentators, still don't believe us, but I have news for them. You are seriously underestimating our intention to have a massive impact in this coming election. Luke Child, director of Pollsters More in Common, says reform could see the Tories lose more than 30 additional seats. He told The Independent that reform could very well be the difference between a hung parliament and a Labour majority. I don't know about that. It comes just days after Mr. Cleverly was exposed for having joked about spiking his wife's drinks with a date rape drug at a reception in Downing Street. Just hours after announcing a raft of measures to crack down on the crime, the Home Secretary joked about putting a little bit of Rompnapol in her drink every night. According to the Sunday Mirror, he added it was nothing really illegal if it's only a little bit. We talked about that story before. Absolute dummy, he's what he is. But this one here, like the very fact that he gets called out by Nigel Farage and gets pointed out by the context to it on X as well, just shows just how of a much of a numpty James Cleverly really is, guys. It really is quite pathetic, to say the least. The guy needs to go. He needs to go as Home Secretary. He's already made way too many comments and remarks and all that. He's just an absolute waste of space at this point, guys. He really, really is. The sooner he goes, the better, guys. Right, so we've got two more stories for you to go through, guys. This one was from Open Democracy, guys. It breaks your spirit, guys. The climate protesters spending Christmas in jail. Activists are accused of crimes relating to protect say's life in prison is tough, but public support keeps them going. So these are the guys who are consistently fighting to protect our climate and to try and make the point that, hey, we need to stop fossil fuels and oil companies running amok in our lives, and we need to change our ways now. And they've been doing that, and they're suffering the consequences of that for speaking up for our rights and for trying to stand for us, guys. So the day before she handed herself in at the police station, Abigail Percy Radcliffe packed her belongings away in a storage, watched her favourite film and said her goodbyes. Family members of her hometown, East Brookes, Washington, were in disbelief when she called them on Zoom to say she was expected to be sent to prison without trial after being accused of conspiracy to cause a public nuisance. I don't think my parents really understood what was happening. I think they thought I was being dramatic, she told Open Democracy. I said, I don't know how long I'll be in custody. It could be months and months. It could be years. I remember my sister laughed because she thought that I was being overly cautious. Abigail was remanded in November 2022 for 3.5 months after taking part in a Just Stop Oil. She pleaded not guilty to the conspiracy charge and is not expected to be on trial until January 2025. The 24-year-old is one of 12 people who spent last Christmas behind bars following a series of protests as the group's campaigned to halt new oil and gas projects in the UK. This year, according to Just Stop Oil, 2 activists will be in prison over Christmas. Stephen Gunnell, 57, and Marcus Decter, 35, Ella Ward, 20, had been expected to join them but were bailed on the 20th of December. Decker will be spending a second Christmas and birthday in prison after receiving a 2-year and 7-month sentence for scaling the Dartford crossing in October last year. His co-defendant Morgan Trolan, 40, was released from prison earlier this month after spending 14 months in custody. Abigail says she found herself in a more fortunate position than others last Christmas. There was a lot of crying on the wing that day, she said. There was a girl who I knew was a Samaritan's listener. She told me Christmas is her least favourite day of the year because she'd like to have a go like 20 different people's cells because they were suicidal, and she talked to them and she talked them down. It was a really bad day for everybody. But I called my parents and I watched a Christmas movie. We had a Christmas lunch. Some of the girls had decorated the wing. I was with some people that I knew and cared very much about. Also, my uncle visited me the day before, and the prisoners who worked in the kitchens made vegan cake and custard for us. Describing her time in prison more generally, Abigail says it really breaks your spirit. I think it's designed to. People focus a lot on the physical conditions, which can be very bad. I really can't complain. The food's terrible, which is to be expected. The bed is very hard, but that stuff really doesn't bother me. What did bother me was the psychological toll inflicted by the criminal justice system in the wider sense, but specifically by prison guards. Despite not having faced trial yet, she felt as though she was already being treated like she was guilty. For all your basic needs, food, medication, laundry, every little tiny thing that you would you would think nothing of when you do in your regular life. You depend on someone who, at best, doesn't care about you at all, or at worst, actively wants to see you suffer. I think a lot of prison guards believe that they're there punishing arm of the state, she told Open Democracy. Daniel, who asked us not to use his surname, agreed with Abigail. Once you're in there, you're a prisoner. You're not treated particularly well or respected. You just become powerless. You realise you've lost control. There were times where you just forgot to unlock my cell at mealtime. Daniel was arrested in November 2022 in what he described as one of the most surreal moments of his life, spending almost 4 months behind bars before he was bailed. He was pleaded not guilty, and his case is expected to begin in June 2024. He spent last Christmas feeling optimistic that he would be given bail the next month, having been refused on his first attempt. Eventually, he took a fourth bail application in February before he was allowed out. I thought, I'll get out this time. I'm a peaceful protester. I've got no convictions. Prisons are overcrowded. It came as a shock to him when his second bail application was rejected. I've got family members who are not in the best of health. My gran had to fall down the stairs, had her fall down the stairs and was going through a bit of a rough patch. You want to be there to support your family, but you're locked up in prison, he said. The argument that I can see some idiot now saying, well, you shouldn't have protested. I can just see somebody screaming that in the comments somewhere. Over Christmas, he spoke with family over the phone, but for him, it was a day like any other. There are no decorations, he said. There's nothing. I wasn't fussed about it. A Christmas tree wouldn't have made a difference. It was tough, but I have no regrets. I'm not a victim. I'm not traumatised. I feel more vindicated than ever. Both Daniel and Abigail received lots of support from people who had heard about their imprisonments. I used to get tons of Christmas cards and postcards the entire time I was there. Every day they were just sliding into the door, sometimes several times a day, Daniel said. It was the same for Abigail, who would get the big stacks of mail from people I've never met from all over the world telling me that I was an inspiration for them, thanking me for what I was accused of doing. I think that's what most are afraid of when none of it mattered. It would be awful to go to prison for something that didn't have an effect on people. Knowing that our actions have been as successful as they are, and hearing so many people tell me that they were proud of what I've done, that's definitely what made it okay and what made it bearable. Decade partners Holland, Colin Davis, a musician and teacher, agreed and said their actions do matter. That's the point, she told Open Democracy. Protest works. Unfortunately, the protesters have to pay the personal price, and unfortunately, those who dispute on the day also pay. I'm really sorry for them, but I think it's kind of non-violent protest is proportionate to the crisis. Young people are trying everything now because leaders are failing them. According to Just Stop Oil, Trollin and Decker sentences were the longest for non-violent climate protests in British history, while Trollin had been released. Decker, a German national, now faces a double punishment as he risks being deported. If he had been told beforehand he'd be deported, said Colin Davis, he probably would not have risked that part in his own liberty. Asked how Decker is coping in prison, Colin Davis said he is really unusually strong and resourceful person. I'm amazed daily at how he's dealing with the different challenges he had. In conversations split between phone calls and prison visits, they always come back to the fact that he did what he did because we were in a dire situation. Compared with other parts of the world where people are dying because of the climate crisis, we just feel quite lucky to be alive and to be safe at the moment. We have to reiterate a lot. People assume that it's awful and we must be totally broken by this situation. But Marcus knew he was going to be going to prison. He stands by what he did, and so do I, but given the style of what we're looking at. It was absolutely proportionate to this crisis, to the crisis. They are trying to make a very valuable point. Now, I understand. I understand that there are times where they do go too far, and I get that. I really do get that. Sometimes when the Just Stop Oil protesters do go too far, and I think that is a fair point and a fair argument to make. But should they be thrown in jail for this? I think it's just harsh. I really do think it's harsh, guys. I think it's very harsh. I think they should be, these kind of actions, they should be thrown into doing long hours of community service instead, rather than being thrown in jail. I don't think it's right in any way, shape or form that they should be that protesters should be thrown in jail for, especially even peaceful ones. Like, for crying out loud, it's just not right in any way, shape or form, guys. I think it's cruel and inhumane, and I think it's wrong that I hope that, yes, I know Labour are looking at repealing some of the protest laws, but I just hope that they're not going to keep the same crap going on the Just Stop Oil protesters and other climate protesters who generally are fighting for a better world, a better future for children's and future children's. Because climate change is not going anywhere, and while I haven't talked much about it lately on the channel, it's still something that is a major issue and will not be going anywhere, guys. It will be talked about again, and I probably won't be surprised if I talk about it again in the future. Guys, I've got one last story for you guys. This one is from Byline Times. While you're here, make sure you hit the like button, share across social media, and hit the bell notification icon so you'll be notified when I upload another video as well, guys. So it's the last one, guys. So Rishi Sunak meets Murdoch more than NHS figures in the latest lobbying revelations. Sunak has had 8 meetings with senior media executives over the summer, compared to just 1 meeting with the health professionals. So we already knew that Sunak is more interested in working with private US firms rather than looking at NHS. But the fact that he's meets the Murdochs more than NHS, yeah, just it's a blatant obvious of disregard of how he generally feels about the National Healthcare Service, guys. So Rishi Sunak met media representatives more than any other sector of the UK economy between July and September, analysis by Byline Times has shown. The Prime Minister met senior executives from Rupert Murdoch's media empire alone 4 times in the space of 3 months, compared to just 1 for NHS representatives. Sunak met Daily Mail editors twice in that time, while meeting housing senior figures once. Several of the meetings were listed as social, meaning that they are unlikely to have been minuted. That means meetings with the departing News Corporation CEO Rupert Murdoch, and separately his son Lachlan, who is taking over at the helm. Every single one of the MP's 8 media meetings at that time is with right-leaning media outlets. Yeah, so you won't get the Guardian in there, for example, because apparently they're tofu eating, according to Suella Braverman. A journalism professor and Byline Times contributor Brian Cathcart said, "These depressing figures reveal just how close the connection is right now between the right-wing billionaire press and our multi-millionaire Prime Minister. Forget democracy and forget Parliament. This is where the real power in this country resides. And the worst still, what we see is the tip of the iceberg. Contacts of this kind are maintained at every level in government and are so intense it's impossible to say where press influences end and government begins." He added that editors and proprietors who have no democratic mandate and whose own industry is in a disgraceful and chaotic state are listened to more by a Prime Minister than anyone else in the country. And Tom Hardy from Extinction Rebellion tells the Truth media campaign that the findings were brazen, adding Sunak's meeting priorities reflected how out of touch the government is with a sensitive electorate. Hardy argues that fossil fuel interests and the billionaire press appear to be pulling the strings, and Sunak will tell us that he is still committed to net zero or the health service, but we all know what's happening to Peninsula. So we're reading the full meeting declarations for the first 3 months of the summer there. There's a link there. So these are Sunak's media meetings from July of September 2023 here. So first one is date of the 6th of 7th 2023. Organisations, individuals, Paul Dace, Editor-in-Chief of D&G Media. Purpose of the meeting, informal media engagements to discuss the work of government. 6th of the 7th 2023, same day. Organised individuals, a spectator. Purpose of the meeting, social meeting, right? 4th of the 8th 2023, organisation is Larrick Murdoch, co-chair of News Corp, executive chairman and CEO of Fox Corporation. Purpose of meeting, social meeting, yeah guys. 7th of the 9th, yeah, Rupert Murdoch, proprietor of News Corporation. Purpose of the meeting, social meeting, guys, just a social meeting, social meeting. On the 19th of the 9th, organisation, Victoria Newton, editor of The Sun, Alex Eber, CEO of Channel 4. Purpose of the meeting, the Sun's Who Cares Win Awards. All right, because he needs that's very important to be there, very important. 26th of the 9th, 2023, organisation individual, Terry Vetsley, editor of the Daily Mail. The purpose of the meeting, informal media engagements to discuss the work of the government. Ah, okay. Same day, Paul Nowak, editor of Conservative Home. Purpose of the meeting, informal political media engagements to discuss the work of the government. And on the 30th, organisation individual, Tony Gallagher, editor of The Times, Stephen Switford, deputy political editor of The Times. Purpose of the meeting, dinner and meeting at the Conservative Party conference. Yeah, so it's they've made a nice little graph here. Looks like Byline Times here have made from the information that they gathered here. So I'll just read out some of the colours. So you have campaigning, education, energy, finance, healthcare, house building, industry, general, manufacturing, media journalism, police, and tech and AI there. These are, and then obviously is how much they've had with them. So you can see there, according to them, media journalism is the highest, education second, manufacturing third, tech, AI, finance, and energy are all level, then campaigning next. And then the 4 lowest, police, industrial, general, house building, and healthcare. Healthcare right at the bottom, guys. Healthcare right at the bottom, according to them. So yeah, not a care in the world, to say the least, about the. You know, they're more interested in appeasing their media masters on the days of things, rather than actually doing their job, in which is to govern and which to look after the people that they represent, but they obviously don't represent. And now obviously there is a concern that obviously Labour may be like that as well, and I do think they will be like that to some extent, but I also believe that they will do things better than the current Conservative government. I do believe that. But will they make the be-all to end-all? No, of course not. But like I said, we are going to hold Labour to the fire here on this channel, and I'm not going to be the only one. There's going to be many YouTubers like myself who are going to be holding Labour to the fire, and they need to be held to the fire. If we want a better country, we need to be able to call them out when they're not doing their part, guys. And guys, with that comes the end of 2023 and the end of Regan's news round, guys. What did you guys think of some of the news articles and stories that we covered today? Let me know what you guys honestly think in the comments section down below, both in the Premiere chat or in the actual chat down below. Let me share some of your thoughts about some of the stories that I've covered here today. While you're here, just before you go, guys, please make sure you hit the like button. We greatly appreciate it. Share this across social media. Hit the bell notification icon so you'll be notified of when I upload another video. And if you want to financially support me, you can do so by joining me on becoming a YouTube member for just 99p, or joining me on Patreon for exclusive content, which you only get by being a Patreon member. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.